South Africa's Institute for Justice and Reconciliation has released its latest transformation audit. It's titled The Youth Dividend. Joining us now from Cape Town to discuss strategies to unlock potential in South Africa's youth is Jan Hofmeyr. He's the head of policy and analysis at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. Jan, thank you very much for joining us here on Beyond Market. I'm looking at the press release and it says the audit finds South Africa's youth ready to face the future with hope. Quite an inspiring, quite a hopeful message from a constituency that is often facing enormous difficulties, whether it's the lack of skills, the lack of employment, being taken up in the economy. They are often the victims and the perpetrators of violence. Your findings, but at odds with the way in which young people are normally depicted in South Africa. Tell us more.
That's true, Karima. I think when we speak about young people in South Africa, the discourse is normally framed as one of being a volatile part of our demography. And when we also look at this year's audit, there are some worrying statistics, but maybe just to provide some context with regard to the focus of this year's transformation audit. Last year's census has shown that about 2/3 of South Africans are younger than 35. Last year has also seen the launch of the final draft of the National Development Plan, which made it quite explicit that it is a youth-biased document. In other words, the very nature of it, a forward-looking document, long-term forward-looking document, is that it focuses on the issues that affect young people in South Africa. And one of the comments that really stuck with me in this report is that when looking at the South African demography and its youthful nature, the report remarked that this can either be the perfect window for sustainable development, or it can also result in the perfect storm. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about the perfect storm, that is also where this discourse of volatility comes in. And when one looks at the statistics, one sees that about 71% of the unemployed in South Africa is younger than the age of 35. About 43% of children find themselves in the poorest quintile, in other words, the poorest 20% of our population. So statistics like these may stem as negative, but I think statistics also have their own limitations, and one of those is that they don't necessarily always measure sentiment and emotion, things like hope and trust in the future. And I think these are important commodities that are maybe intangible, that one cannot always see, but they do play a very important role in terms of the momentum that a country has in moving forward. And
Jan,
when one sees that about 2/3 of our population is young, this is something that we should nurture and something that we should treasure.
Yes.
Now the sentiment of young people being positive, or a finding of them being positive and hopeful for the future, comes from a series of national focus groups that we've done about 1.5 years ago. And when one looked at the sentiments of adult South Africans, it does confirm this notion of youth being volatile. But when we looked at how young South Africans felt, their response was more one of we view ourselves as creative, as resilient, and also hopeful, and in charge of our own destiny.
Let me come in here. The view that that you say is informed by the fact that there's a sense of optimism. What is driving that optimism, given the fact that the stats look so bad? Often when you talk to educators and policymakers around messaging for young people, whether it is safe sex, whether it is hope in the future, it's this idea that you have to sell belief that their lives can change and that things can turn out for the better. Talk to us about what the drivers are that informs the sense of hopefulness.
I think as people coming from a different generation, we might dismiss the sentiment as mere youthful naivety, but when one looks at some of the research that have been done around intergenerational poverty, one sees that young people are being disproportionately affected. You know, as I mentioned earlier, about 45%, 43% of young South Africans find themselves in the poorest 20%. But what one has also seen, and there has been a significant drop also in child poverty. One has seen also a drop in the numbers as far as child hunger is concerned. And another thing that we also cannot sort of dismiss is the fact that young people have had increased access to certain sort of basic services, like access to sanitation, decent housing,
I want to come
electricity,
in here.
clean water, and
I want to come in here. The access to services, albeit patchy or uneven, the fact that there has been some improvement in the quality of life of young people is often not properly understood when people unpack South Africa's political prospects. Just on Monday we saw the launch of a new political formation, AHANG, by Dr. Ramphele, and what was interesting there is that she was speaking about a broken promise that the rulers of South Africa has not made well on their promise to deliver a better life. We've seen a recent study that young people don't know who Dr. Ramphele is. Her message, or a message like that from a new party, will it resonate with these young people, given the fact that they in fact make up the bulk of the voters, the majority of whom are going to be first-time voters?
I think what one can say thus far about the political platform is that Dr. Ramphele has articulated the things that she feels needs to be fixed in the country, but we have not really seen policies yet that young people can respond to. So I think the jury is still out. But what she did do is she made this plea on behalf of young people, and also offered herself as a generational bridge. Now I think we still have to wait and see to what extent her party can capture the imagination of young South Africans, and becoming known in the public eye would be one of her challenges.